Hi, I'm Fiona Ramage. I am now the person at the lead of EORI and reproducibility as of this month. But today I'm also the speaker where I am going to be walking you through my team's progress over the last year and a bit in creating a good research practice roadmap, which some of you will have heard of already. So first of all, I wanted to talk about how this roadmap came into existence. Why where did this idea come from? And yeah, so as many of you know, for the last 2 or 3 years, the University of Edinburgh have run a Good Research Practice Week every year, um, usually having a mix of talks and practical sessions and everything to engage researchers and staff in good research practice. And one aspect of these is running co-creation sessions on different themes, where teams of individuals show up to a session that lasts several hours and have to come up with a project, which they then pitch to try and secure funding to then realize the project. So in Good Research Practice Week of 2023-2024, me, along with 3 other people, attended the the GRP Week co-creation session for a project that would increase reproducibility. That might not be the exact wording, but it was that was the overall theme. That ended up in 2 teams of 2 people, and we had the whole morning to create an idea and then pitch it to the panel. And there was £600 of funding available to realize the winning idea. So when we sat down in the team to try and figure out what the issue was with reproducibility, like what kind of project could we pitch that would help the most? We thought that the problem was, especially with early career researchers, that they maybe don't have enough support to incorporate good research practices. Maybe they don't know what's expected of them. Maybe they don't know how to realize those expectations. And we thought this would be a good starting point, a good thing that would increase reproducibility substantially if the project was successful. So then we thought, how could we solve this problem? Maybe we could design something like a workshop. But then we had a thought. We thought, actually, we're not sure that such a workshop doesn't exist. And I think I've actually been to a similar workshop and almost no one attended. So then we sort of thought that it's not only that early career research don't have enough support. The problem is also that there are resources, but people don't engage with them, whether that's because they're not aware of them or because they don't feel like they should. And when we tried to look for different resources that were available, for example, on the university web pages, but also just on broader sites that are supposed to be helpful, we found that the resources were quite scattered and quite hard to keep track of. And then it becomes very hard to know what your expectations are, especially as an early career researcher, like a PhD student, where you have a lot of other things going on. So then the idea we thought was, instead of creating an entirely new resource, like a workshop, what we could do is collate and signpost to the existing resources and hopefully guide early career researchers or PhD students into incorporating them. We wanted to create a project that would increase reproducibility. The idea was feasible within, a few weeks, a few months. That it was doable with our expertise available, and that it didn't need more than a £600 budget. And another thing that we had to prove was that we'd be able to measure quantitatively the success of the project. And all of these criteria were met. Our team secured the funding, and we got the green light to go ahead with the Good Research Practice Roadmap. So to talk about the kind of conceptualization of what we wanted to achieve. Again, here we want to focus on early career researchers and increase the adoption of good research practices. To do so, we want early career researchers to understand the expectations placed on them throughout a degree like a PhD. We wanted to identify and then collate the resources so that we take away some of the work that's required to do all this. We wanted to signpost in a way that was both informative, but not overwhelming. And we wanted to include potentially everything relevant, or at least be candid where we weren't able to. we thought a good way to do this would be to group into common themes rather than telling people here are the 50 expectations of you. We could come up with main themes and people could explore those themes one at a time to hopefully break it down into more bite-sized chunks. And then, yeah, we kind of thought of the idea of doing it like a timeline. Use an example of a PhD degree. You start at the start of a degree where you're just beginning to learn what your project is and planning your original experiments to right at the end where you're trying to publish your work and writing a thesis and analyzing all your data and all of that sort of thing. So then we decided to create a roadmap. We wanted a visually appealing graphic in a map format, kind of like a path going from a defined start to a defined end. We wanted these themes of topics as checkpoints on the map. We then thought we don't want to overwhelm the map with visual information, well, with text information. So we would create the map as a visually appealing guide and then have an accompanying website that would go along with the graphic. We wanted to collate all the University of Edinburgh resources that are relevant, but also open source ones that we could vouch for or that were endorsed by the university. Because, as you will remember, we had to create something that had where we were able to quantify the success. We thought we would initially launch our kind of pilot version of the map to a small cohort of PhD students within our college as a starting point. So now I just want to display to you all the amount of work this has required. We've been working since the start of 2024 in a team of 4 people, so that's about 1.5 years. There's 4 of us on the team, composed of either postdoctoral researchers or research staff at the university. Our team is led by Gillian Curry, who's a postdoc in CCBS with me and also was our team lead and was the person who hosted the original co-creation session. We have Emma Hall as a postdoc in the IGC, Jamie McQueen as a data manager in IRR, and myself. We met every 2 weeks, almost without fail, for 45 minutes, or recently we switched to every month for 2 hours, which has seemed slightly less overwhelming, I suppose. And then I also want to highlight just the breadth of the work we've had to complete. We had to design the roadmap, so that's both the structure, the kind of visual design, but also the content. We had to collate and verify all these sources of information and check that they were correct and correctly sourced and comprehensive and really captured everything. We had to do some graphic design, which I don't think any of us really understood how we would do that. But then everything that's involved in a project like this is also all the admin, all planning meetings, taking notes, having to-do lists between sessions, and then organizing events. Like we did a big launch event at Good Research Practice Week this year. So next I want to show you the themes that we determined for the roadmap, which kind of happened before putting them on a graphic. We split the roadmap into 3 stages of planning, doing, and disseminating your research. For planning, the themes that we came up with was one around designing experiments, just how to go about experimental design when you start with a blank page. Another theme would be to write a plan, so everything about writing a protocol or pre-registering your study or a data management plan. Then there's scoping your training and requirements, so looking at opportunities available within the university and outside the university, and then beginning to learn about the principles of open research. For doing, we decided to focus more on documenting the experiments you're conducting. We created a theme with advice on data collection and analysis. We decided this was also a good time to start to incorporate more kind of thought about research culture into your work and to also continue with developing the skills that you need to carry out your research project, but also beyond that. Finally, for disseminating, we wanted to highlight that you should be implementing open research practices at this stage. We created a theme with information around data sharing, everything from numerical data to code, all that sort of thing. Finally, good reporting for when you are disseminating your data, and then putting a lot more thought into research citizenship, which is kind of, it has some overlap with research culture in the doing parts, but it just goes a bit further. So now here's a first view of the graphic that we launched at the Good Research Practice Week launch event. I will highlight that this is version 1. It's undergoing a lot of changes, and it will likely undergo further changes. This is what we came up with. You see the roadmap with the start and the finish, the 3 different stages in planning, doing, and disseminating, and all the modules along the way. We have a sort of hopefully engaging text at the bottom that kind of informs you what the roadmap is, as well as a QR code that will allow you to scan it and go to the website where the actual accompanying information will be listed. We wanted to have this kind of thing as a poster or something that we could print out around our schools, our colleges, and have people look at it. We want something that's visually appealing and something that people actually do want to scan the QR code to learn more. I said all that. I just forgot to press the next slide. If you do scan the QR code, for now, our website is hosted on SharePoint. This is just temporary until we figure out hosting within the university's web pages. But I want to show you what our SharePoint site looks like for now. So this is the very top of the SharePoint, where we have, again, a sort of introduction to what the roadmap is and how you should use it. And then below that, there's the actual graphic of the roadmap, and below that, there's the content. So planning, doing, and disseminating are each broken down into 4 modules, each with collapsible text. If we spread one out, this is one of our more information-dense ones, which is the planning your experiments or your research, where we have information on writing a study protocol, a data management plan, pre-registering a study. And as you can see, we have sort of bullet points that will explain why you would do these sorts of things, what you have to gain from it, and then more about how you would do it, as well, with suggested sources at the bottom, with actually external links that you can click that will take you to more detailed guides. Not all of our themes are that information dense. For example, this is the Explore Training one, which just links to the IAD website and lists other potential sources of help that you might be able to reach, and finds training opportunities that are relevant to you. So again, this is just highlighting just part of the writing a plan. It does come with the matching icon, which matches the one on the map. As you can see, this text in blue at the top, it is hopefully narrative text that should tell you why you should care about that sort of thing. Bullet points about the different steps, and like I said, the suggested sources at the bottom. And this is the case for all our subheaders within each of our themes and so on. So there's a lot of information on the website, but we hope that the kind of collapsible format means that it's more digestible. Something else that I wanted to mention is the roadmap. We really wanted to design it as something like a kind of like something that would accompany a student, that they would have in their handbook and they'd be able to refer back to, not the sort of thing where you sit down and read the roadmap for 3 hours, because I think that would be fairly overwhelming. So to improve the roadmap and to make sure that we were doing the right things, we had 2 different ways of requesting feedback. The first round of feedback we did is we reached out by emailing a Microsoft form, and we sent it to, I think, 20 or so individuals that we thought had relevant expertise. So this is people at the university who are involved in research improvement and integrity, everyone around library and digital research services, heads of postgraduate research within our schools, people involved in research culture and quality and impact. Here's just a little snapshot of the types of feedback we got. It was just asking people to rate something on a scale, and then giving extra comments on the bottom, as detailed as you'd like. And it was focused on, first of all, the appearance and how the information's presented. And then the second half was more about the content, and are we presenting the right resources, and are we pitching it to the right level, and is it properly balanced, and that sort of thing. The second round of feedback that we got was, once we'd incorporated all of this, all of our feedback from experts, what we thought we'd do is that we would launch this roadmap, or it was more of a pre-launch event in the end. We were hoping our target demographic. So we hired a large capacity room and we organized a virtual meeting on Teams as well, so people could join online. We tried to attract mostly graduate students, who would be the times people who would usually be using the roadmap. We had Microsoft Forms surveys before and after the roadmap. The idea was to get a kind of baseline of how people felt about good research practices and how much they felt they knew, and then showing them the roadmap and getting them to read through it and click through it and giving them a couple of hours to explore, and then doing a survey at the end to kind of hopefully see a difference in, whether people understood better what was expected of them in terms of good research practice. We allocated some time to explore the tools in small groups, and we wanted to have small group discussions and then feedback to a larger group at the end, and then hopefully have collated feedback. As with many of these types of events, it didn't go quite as expected, but as you'll see, not necessarily in a bad way. We did have fairly low attendance, where we had, I think, 6 people in person and a couple virtually. And we had people from diverse backgrounds. We didn't just have postgraduate students, we also had an undergraduate student, we had some research staff. What we found as well is when we put people in like 2 groups of 3 or so to explore the tool, we found that people wanted to discuss things more than they wanted to click around. Like we felt that people felt like they understood or what the content of the tool was fairly quickly, but they wanted more time to discuss it. And then in the end, we didn't discuss it in small groups so much as we just had a large group discussion with the 4 of us, the GRP roadmap team, and all the attendees in the room and the ones online, and just had a big discussion of, why it was currently good, but also what could be improved, how it could be made even better. And we even received an offer for collaboration and help with finding out potential contacts that might be able to help us take this further. So we didn't ultimately manage to collect much quantitative data on the tool's usefulness. We didn't have a before and after of how much grad students knew about good research practice and how much our tool improved, but we got much more in-depth feedback than we could have ever hoped for. So we're happy with it. So now we're on to development of the roadmap version 2. Just to give you a snapshot of some of the feedback we received through both of these types of feedback. People had a lot of comments on the website layout. Sometimes it was awkward to scroll all the way down to find the text for the themes. I think I recall that some people tried the mobile website and that maybe wasn't as good. People either wanted the roadmap right at the top or wanted it right at the bottom. Lots of people suggested having clickable icons, which we wish we knew how to do. We will hopefully get there at some point. It would be great if we could just click on the icon on the roadmap and expand all the relevant text. That's the dream. But it was a lot more complicated than we thought it was, and a lot more than we can achieve with the training that we receive at the university for the website, for the university web pages, unfortunately. We also highlighted some possible accessibility issues just with color and contrast, and whether the color scheme is contrasty enough, and it wasn't. We were told that some sections were maybe overwhelming in detail, especially the first one, like designing experiments. We just immediately launched into like information on statistics, which is maybe would put people off exploring the rest of the roadmap, which is comparatively more gentle. And some of our sections were a little bit imbalanced. For instance, it was pointed out to us that our doing section had everything around doing, but it didn't really have much about the doing. And it was also highlighted at the same time that it's not always linear when you conduct research. It's not always you plan, you do it, and then you publish it, and then you move on to the next one. Sometimes you have to rethink your plans, or after doing it, you learn something that then helps you plan something else for the future, or maybe you've made a mistake and you cannot disseminate your results until you fix the problem. So we wanted to have the path less be from start to finish, but be more flexible in that way. We also thought some themes should run all the way through. Like, for example, we should always be aware of training, we should always be aware of research culture, and we should always be aware of open research. It's not just at the end of your degree or your research that you need to consider these things. Finally, it was also pointed out to us, which is completely accurate, that our sections were aimed mostly at quantitative subjects. We did initially want to do this for just a cohort of like 6 PhD students in the College of Medicine and Veterinary Medicine, so that's normal. But we have a lot of people who are interested in it who are not from a STEM background. And finally, it was also said that we could prompt more self-reflection of the person reading the roadmap to make them really consider the stage that they're at and what they still need to do and whether they've learned properly from what they have read and engaged with, and just really help kind of guide a student through all this information. So to change all of this, we've changed the graphic. We've restructured the themes, balancing them out a bit better and moving them some to be core themes that would run all the way through. We hope to add some reflective questions and comments for each section with like learning objectives, and to find any missing content or resources that was pointed out to us that we may have missed out on. Later, when we have the time and the resources, we want to generalize a little bit so it's not STEM focused and it's also applicable to non-quantitative subjects, and also ideally that it's not just early career researchers. So here you can see the improvements that we have already. On the left was the initial version of the roadmap that we launched at Good Research Practice Week, and on the right was our version that Emma whipped up for us in 2 hours at our last in-person session. So as you can see, we've changed the contrasts on some of the graphics by making them black, like black text on color. At the top, we have 4 core themes. And we also have an arrow going from it should be like reflect and learn, going from the doing part back to the planning part. An optional arrow, of course, not necessarily the case. And yes, we've changed some of the little icons and, for example, separating data collection and analysis and adding in networking, which is an additional something that would be good practice that we hadn't considered. So now I want to talk a bit about the future of the project. This has been a lot bigger than any of us thought it would be. The original aim that we had is we wanted to pilot this launch to a small PhD cohort, and if it was successful, maybe consider it for inclusion in something like a student handbook within our college or school or something like that. And like I mentioned earlier, we kind of wanted to print out physical posters that would draw people in and just have a bit more reach and have people engage with this resource that we hope can be helpful. And for this objective, we're actually almost ready. We don't have much further to go. We just have to kind of rewrite the content and confirm with like the course leads that we're going to incorporate this and hopefully have it launched by September. But as we were doing this, we've had so much positive feedback and encouragement, and the more we do this, the more we want to do it better. So we have some rather more grandiose goals as well. One of the smaller ones is maybe we should expand to more schools and disciplines within the University of Edinburgh. Instead of being biomedical focused, we could be general STEM focused maybe, or maybe we should go to other research subjects, or what about more just studies that are not research based. Something that's maybe a bigger aim yet would be to not make it so early career researcher specific and not to graduate students, but something that could be applicable to all career stages and roles. Bigger yet, maybe we could expand to include other Scottish and UK universities, but this requires a lot of work. For example, it would require not having University of Edinburgh centric resources. Finally, our biggest goal, which seems crazy but would be fantastic if we could do it, would be to create some kind of open source website and package with an adaptable template that would then be downloadable and adaptable by any institution, effectively using the 1.5 years of work that we've done and just changing it, tailoring it to suit their own needs. But we believe that these good research practices are broadly applicable. They're not just University of Edinburgh focused. But then with this, we have some challenges. The 4 of us are enthusiastic, or we have been, but we're also not experts or the main authorities on good research practice, especially when it comes to other disciplines or institutions than our own. We do lack technical expertise for some of the more ambitious things like the graphic design and the website design. I think Emma has had to take up graphic design as a hobby in her spare time, and I think I'm going to be doing the same with website design. And we don't want this. Ideally, we would like the help where someone actually knows how to do it and doesn't have to self-teach. Something worth pointing out is the project has actually been entirely unfunded. We have not spent our £600. We have done this all sort of free on top of all our other commitments, and we do have full-time jobs at the university, and this is not part of it. The project also needs an endpoint because it's been going on for 1.5 years, and we just keep having more and more things we want to improve and approve for more funding. But then also if we don't have an endpoint, some of us are on fixed term contracts. What would happen if one or more of us left the university? So the outstanding solutions that we're still looking for is how can we host this kind of resource repository and maybe web pages if we go beyond the University of Edinburgh website? Where could we obtain technical help, for example, for graphic and website design? Could we get funding for this? Maybe for this extra help or training? But it would really depend on the scale and what sort of things funders are willing to share, because I guess this is more of a research culture thing, and we're not sure how easy it is to fund. And then we want to think about the sustainability of the project. Other than the four of us, who owns it? Who's going to take responsibility for it and keep it up to date and adapt it and change it? And yeah, how do we make it adaptable and maintainable in the first place? So if any of you have any suggestions or ideas about any of this, we'd love to hear them. Please do share them with us. And I'd like to take a minute to thank everyone that has made this project possible. Thank you so much to the GRP Roadmap team, led by Gillian Curry, also with Emma Hall, Jamie McQueen. It's been the kind of team where, although it was just four of us, it's felt like the kind of team that if just one of us was not there, it would not have been possible. We just worked so well together and complemented each other well and really took over different responsibilities to the point it really has been an ideal team to work with. I also want to thank the University of Edinburgh for hosting a good research practice week in the first place and valuing this kind of thing, but also the organisers of the last 2 years who have helped us first of all run the co-creation session where this idea came from, but also launch the roadmap at this year's event. We want to thank everyone who's given us so much feedback via email or via the launch event, and also the bit of graphic design and website design advice we've received from people at the university and outside. And then finally, I also want to thank everyone who encouraged us along the way and just believed in this project, because we've had so much positive feedback and people telling us that, this is fantastic, but here's how you can make it even better, or we want this to apply not just to ECRs, but to everyone, and we want it for other schools. And I think without all this encouragement and positivity, this project might have ended a long time ago. So thank you everyone for listening.